Welcome to episode 2 of our podcast today, where we'll be delving into the subject of self-awareness and why it's the essential foundation for personal growth. It's like laying the groundwork for a sturdy house. Without it, everything else can feel shaky. I'm your host, Sarah, and today we'll explore how self-awareness allows us to reflect on our core values and our behaviors, providing us with the opportunity to pause and take a moment to truly, and I mean really, truly understand ourselves. To kick things off, let's talk about the 5 theories utilized in Gestalt Therapy, which are also essential for individuals seeking personal growth. These theories help us to notice and understand various patterns in our behaviors, paving the way for greater self-awareness. You might be thinking, well, Sarah, why are you giving me the 5 theories of Gestalt Therapy? I just want to hear this podcast. And you're totally right. However, the reason why I like to educate you on the things that I already know, it allows your brain to expand in the self-awareness. And what a better thing to do? We're discussing self-awareness right now. And not only are you co-educating yourself and learning about new things and cohorts of different ideas, but it sinks in at a deeper level. And I mean, would it really harm you to learn a little bit more things than you already know? So let's go into this a little bit more deeper. The theories around Gestalt therapy help us understand various patterns in our own behaviors, which obviously would allow us to pave a better way for greater self-awareness. So let's look at the first one, projection. Have you found yourself blaming others for your problems? That's projection in action. It's when we disown certain aspects of ourselves and attribute them to others. For example, if you're constantly criticizing someone for being lazy, and it might be because you're avoiding acknowledging your own procrastination tendencies. By recognizing projection, we can take responsibility for our own feelings and actions, empowering ourselves to initiate change. Then we look at 2, introjection. This is the tendency to accept others' beliefs, standards without any question. And I mean, no, you don't question them, without really making them our own. So we just notice them, we understand them, or sometimes we don't have to understand them, but we notice them. I'll give you an example. Imagine absorbing someone else's opinions or values without filtering them through your own experiences and values. It's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. The combat is introjection. So we need to critically analyze and restructure these beliefs to align them with who we truly are as human beings. Doesn't matter where you've come from and your own values and everything. But in order to grasp self-awareness, we need to expand on the idea of introjection. So we don't introject different ideas and values in somebody else's projection within our own self. And so we can actually notice what's really going on. 3, we've got retroflexion. So have you ever noticed yourself feeling like you're your own worst enemy? Listen, even though I'm running this podcast and I'm a therapist and I work with a lot of people with complex trauma, PTSD, and a lot of other things, I'm also a mum and I'm also a wife. And when I say also a wife, because it's like a big job to some degree every now and then. And then I'm a student of life. I'm always learning. And so the worst enemy I find is myself. Because when people encourage you to do the things that you know you're capable of doing, you self-sabotage. So retroflexion is turning inward the actions or our behaviors where we want to direct them towards others. So when we're trying to self-sabotage and we're our own worst enemies, it's like taking out our frustrations on ourselves instead of addressing them directly. So we're always like, I'm not good enough, I can't do this, see Sarah, I told you again. And you just fall into that loop. And this can lead obviously to anxiety and even physical symptoms like depression or psychosomatic complaints. Like you'll notice physical pains in your body or stubbornness or constraints or tension around your neck, your shoulders, your back. It could be anywhere. Now, when we recognize the retroflexion, it helps us redirect our energy towards constructive action. I'm going to repeat that again. When we recognize the retroflexion, it helps us redirect our energy towards constructive action. Okay, so when we notice this, we can actually, after we recognize it, we can say to the road, no, we're not going this way, we're going that way. And then when the road wants to take us this way, which is our mind, we say, no, we want to take it that way. And we're just interrupting our own behavioral responses to redirect our perceptions, energies, our internalizations of the world to a different way. Then we look at deflection. So picture this. Picture yourself constantly dodging meaningful conversations or avoiding direct engagement with the environment. That's a deflection for you. So it's like trying to dodge a game of dodgeball, but constantly changing the subject or making jokes. But in the long run, it leaves us feeling emotionally depleted and disconnected. Instead, we need to learn to engage directly and authentically, because this will allow us to open up our views and our surroundings, and it would also allow that disconnect to reconnect. Now we look at confluence. This is when we blur the lines between ourselves and the environment. By the way, I have noticed some men, not all men, tend to do this when they're requesting to find something in the fridge, but they can't find it because it's where they're putting their focus on. And so they're focusing on their belief that it might be in the top left, right of the shelf, but really it's right in front of them in the middle shelf. So when we look at confluence, the blur between the lines of ourselves and the environment, we're striving to blend in and avoid conflict at all costs. Not in the scenario of the fridge that I've just mentioned, but it streams like in a way where it's like trying to camouflage ourselves to fit in with our surroundings, even if it means sacrificing our own inner selves. But genuine growth requires us to embrace our connections and our individuality so we can stand out of the crowd. But by recognizing the confluence, we start to cultivate authentic connections and relationships, not only with ourselves, but the people around us. And then when we understand these 5 theories and how they manifest in our lives, and I've just given you a small little brief about each one, we can begin obviously to unravel the layers of our own behaviors, our thought patterns. So let me give you this. The next time you catch yourself projecting, introjecting, retroflecting, deflecting, or conflating, take a moment to pause. And I mean really pause. And just reflect. Ask yourself, what am I truly feeling right now? What do I really need? And remember, self-awareness is a journey, not a destination. It's like you think you need to run to get to somewhere. But the fact is, you're on a consistent journey. It doesn't end until our expiry date pretty much comes up. So let's explore some 3 effective strategies to enhance your ability in self-awareness. One is my favorite. Obviously, we're discussing this, is reflection. So sit down, call it reflection time if you like. When we talk about reflection, we're talking about carving out intentional time to explore our inner landscape. So this could mean sitting quietly with your thoughts, perhaps meditation, or taking the time to write in a journal. And I cannot emphasize how many times I emphasize, and I will continue to emphasize, and yes, I've repeated it 3 times around journal writing, the importance of journal writing, because this helps us reflect on our inner worlds. Is our inner world in congruency with our outer world? And journaling allows us to reflect on these behaviors, thoughts, and values that we hold within ourselves. So these practices obviously allow us to become more aware of our thoughts, feelings, reactions to different situations. For example, if you're feeling anxious about an upcoming presentation, reflection time might help you uncover the underlying fears or insecurities that you weren't ever consciously aware of before. So when we shine the light on something of our inner workings or our inner world, we can better understand ourselves and make more conscious choices moving forward. 2, seek feedback. I know a lot of people, especially the ones that don't like to be criticized or confront in situations, they pretty much avoid feedback. But seeking feedback from others can be a powerful way to gain new perspectives in ourselves pretty much. So it's like holding up a mirror and seeing ourselves through someone else's eyes. This feedback might come from friends, families, colleagues, or it could be your children at some times. And don't be so offended by your kids. They're so little, but they know so much according to their perception, and they give you some really great strategic feedback on certain scenarios. However, being a mature adult, I would suggest that also filter through that in case it's not the right suggestion. However, when we seek feedback, it can offer us valuable insights into our strengths, also our weaknesses, and the blind spots that you always seem to close your eyes on. And that takes us back to the beginning of this podcast when I was discussing the self-sabotaging and when we are our worst enemies. So let's put this into a little different perspective. If a colleague mentions that you tend to interrupt others during meetings, this might allow you to be prompted to reflect on your communication style. Not hammer yourself and become your worst enemy, but just reflect on the communication style and consider how you can improve, embracing the feedback even when it's difficult to hear. It's a key step in your journey towards self-awareness. Now, my favorite thing that I like to do, and a lot of people are very constrained in how they believe this should be, and it's about practicing mindfulness. A lot of people think, oh, no, I can't do it. I can't sit still. My thoughts are in the washing and this and the kids and work. And what tends to happen, they believe that it should be a compounded time of space to sit down and be silent. But it's not always the case. It took me some time to figure this one out. But you can actually be mindful anytime during the day. It could be anywhere from 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, and it can go on for hours if you really choose to. So it's all about being present in the very moment without judgment. Exactly that. So you just got to be present without judging yourself or the surroundings that you're in. So it's about paying attention to our thoughts, our feelings, even our bodily sensations, our emotions as they arise moment by moment. This practice also can help us become more attuned to our inner experiences and break free from the habitual patterns of thinking and reacting. For example, if you're feeling overwhelmed by a busy schedule, which I tend to carry very often in my life, mindfulness might help us notice the physical sensations of stress in our body, and it allows us to take steps to soothe ourselves, such as deep breathing or taking a short walk, or like previous to this podcast that I've just put out there, I had a lot of studies and assignments to get to. And in the back of my head, I was a little bit overwhelmed because I really wanted to push this through, talking about self-awareness. During that time, I was self-assessing me. And so I took a breather. I just walked a little bit, stretched, came back, finished my assignment, updated it, and pretty much submitted it in before I took this podcast. These are little steps. These are soothing steps. Mindfulness doesn't mean I just have to sit down in meditation or 20 minutes or an hour and forget the world and lose myself in that concept. Absolutely no way. It's just about picking up where I'm at, where I've left off, where I need to work on. Now, let's talk a little bit about what happens when we inevitably fall off the self-awareness wagon. We need to address something called I like to call it gentle self-compassion. So when we slip up or we make a mistake, like I've just discussed when I was a little bit overwhelmed with pretty much uploading an assignment, don't be so hard on yourself. It's important to offer ourselves kindness and understanding. How would you deal with it if it was your child, your spouse, your best friend, whoever it may be, your coworker, your employee, or whoever is around you? How would you address it? I would naturally presume common sense would say you address this with kindness and understanding. Instead of berating ourselves for our perceived failures, we can then practice self-compassion by acknowledging our humanity and treating ourselves with the same warmth, really the same warmth and the care that we would offer to that friend that's really in need. They're the ones that are self-sabotaging themselves. So this might involve speaking to ourselves with words of encouragement or engaging in soothing self-care activities, such as taking a warm bath or spending time in nature. Then we move on to another part, reflecting and learning. Falling off track provides us with an opportunity for growth and self-reflection. So instead of dwelling on our missteps, we can use them as learning experiences to gain deeper insights into ourselves and into our own patterns and behaviors. So for example, if we find ourselves repeatedly procrastinating on a project, which by the way, I did last week, and I actually requested an extension because it's just a way of life. Sometimes we want to be more comfortable in the comfort instead of overriding the comfort with discomfort to find comfort again. So we can reflect on this by underlining notice the underlying reasons behind this behavior or brainstorm strategies for overcoming it in the future. And just reflect what's going on, why am I doing this, what's happening? And it just allows us to sit back and really approach it from a different point of view instead of relapsing in the process of procrastination, for example. So when we approach these setbacks with with curiosity and willingness to learn, we can turn them into stepping stones on our journey towards the greater self-awareness. Another point we like to address, which if you notice what I'm saying, they all somehow fall in the Gestalt philosophy, but just in a different way. Seek support. Okay, it's really important. I cannot emphasize this enough. You must seek support. It's important to remember that we don't have to navigate the path of self-awareness alone. No, you don't. There are support things out there. There are groups, there are workshops that you can attend and be a part of a movement where other women or other men allow you to seek that support and open up a safe space where you can sit down and discuss what's going on or what's not really going on and what you need to work on. You can also seek support through trusted friends, therapists, professionals, teachers. They honestly provide us with invaluable guidance and encouragement along our way. The reason why I say that, because they perceive the world in a different view than you. Meaning, when you're feeling stuck in that turmoil, turning around like a dog chasing his tail, okay, these people look at it in a different point and they'll just tell you to stop and reflect. And that piece of advice can really go a long way. Whether it's talking through your challenges with that friend or over coffee or seeking out that expertise of a therapist or a coach, even reaching out for support, like any sort of support, can allow us to feel less isolated. And I know how it feels to feel isolated. It's terrible. You feel alone, and then guess what? You're living in your head. And something Tony Robbins really resonated with me, what he once said, if you're inside your head, you're dead. And it's so truthful. If you're inside your head, you're dead. You become so self-isolated, believing your own thoughts, behaviors, beliefs, patterns, everything that's running inside your system. And you isolate yourself from the external world. And then you end up with the imposter syndrome. You end up with more anxiety. You deepen the hole of depression. And a lot of things start to come up and pop up for you. So when we are able to approach these people, we become more empowered. So we can continue our journey of self-discovery or whatever it is that we're working on or towards. So when we enhance our self-awareness, it's not only a journey, but it requires a lot of dedication and courage. Something Brené Brown also resonates with me so well when she says, well, in order to have courage, we must first be vulnerable. And in order to be vulnerable, we must delve into courage. And so to be courageous, you must also dedicate yourself to vulnerability. And when I say vulnerability, find that person, that coach, that therapist, that friend, the teacher, whoever it is, and allow them to carry that space to give you a different direction or view that will also enhance the dedication to continue your self-awareness journey. Also adding on top of that, just the third point, so from dedication to courage and obviously vulnerability, self-compassion. When we incorporate self-compassion, we're able to speak to ourselves as though we're speaking to that other person, which is our inner self, just like you would speak to a child. And when you practice this day in, day out, we're able to reflect more and we're able to seek feedback and create that space of mindfulness in our daily lives. We deepen our own inner understanding of ourselves. And this allows us to cultivate greater insights and resilience. How we inevitably stumble along the way? Well, we can embrace the setbacks as opportunities for growth and reach out for support from our communities. And this would allow us together to continue this journey of self-discovery. It It will allow you to delve into the realms of the curiosity and compassion and that courage that I was just discussing with you. So there you have it. As we reflect on everything that we've just discussed today, we can see that not only self-reflection, self-awareness is important in our lives, but there is certain retrospects of information that if we understood on a deeper level would allow us to embrace our self-awareness. And look, see it this way. If you understand self-awareness as the foundation, the core value of everything around you, will you allow yourself to no longer be in the ignorant state of not understanding or learning? Sometimes our parents put us into realms of boxes where we believe certain things and things must be done in a certain way. But when this happens, we're not able to become more self-aware of our surroundings, our friends, their belief systems, and then that closes us off from growing and from discovering, who am I? What is my purpose? Pray that this has been a great lesson for you. Until our next podcast. Goodbye for now.